Picture the throne room of hell. Not fire and pitchforks, not a screaming mob of devils. A court. 7 thrones in a row in the dark, 7 crowns, and on each one a single prince who was handed one human sin to own forever, to perfect, to spread. And here is the part that should bother you. Not one of them started out as a prince. The Lord of Greed was once just a word. The Lord of Gluttony was somebody else's god, worshipped, prayed to, feared. One of these princes is a sea monster, big enough to drag a ship to the bottom of the ocean, and he has been chained to the pettiest little sin you can name. They were not invented out of nothing. Every single one of them was something older and stranger that human beings dug up out of an old and dangerous page and crowned. Stay with me, because the closer you look at who is really sitting on these thrones, the less comfortable it gets. We will take them one throne at a time. And I want you to watch for the pattern, because by the end, it changes what this whole list is actually about. Start at the top with the throne that has never once been empty. Pride. Lucifer. His name means the light bringer, the morning star, the single most beautiful thing that was ever made. And the oldest words ever written about him are not even a curse. They are a taunt in the book of Isaiah, thrown at a king who climbed too high. How you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. That line was meant for a man. But it was too perfect to waste on a man, and so the morning star became the first angel who looked at his own light and decided it burned brighter than the throne above him. Think about what that means for a second. Pride is not just first on the list because it sounds important. Pride is first because, in the logic of these old books, pride is where everything else began. Every other prince in this room is the wreckage of his fall. He never wanted to rule hell. He wanted heaven. And when he could not have it, he built a throne out of the ruins and called it a kingdom. Now drop down to the second throne and meet a prince who was never real at all. Greed, Mammon. Here is the secret about Mammon. In the oldest texts, the word just means money, wealth, the thing you trust instead of God. You cannot serve both God and Mammon. There is no creature there, none, just a warning. But a warning is a weak, forgettable thing, and people needed a face to hate, so the word grew a body. It grew limbs. And by the time the poets were done with it, Mammon was a fallen angel who, even while he still walked in heaven, kept his eyes fixed on the gold under his feet instead of the glory over his head. That is the whole tragedy of him. He is the prince who teaches you to look down. And he is patient, because he was built out of your own appetite, and he knows sooner or later you will reach for him on your own. The third throne is the one people only mention in a lower voice. Lust. Asmodeus. And Asmodeus is different, because Asmodeus has bodies. In the book of Tobit there is a young woman named Sarah, and Asmodeus is in love with her, and his love is a death sentence. 7 times she is given a husband. 7 times on the wedding night, before the marriage can even begin, he kills the groom. 7 dead men. And in an older text still, the Testament of Solomon, the king drags this demon into the light and forces him to confess what he does and how he can be beaten back by smoke, by the burning of a fish. Remember that, because it tells you exactly what kind of prince he is. He does not want your nation. He does not want your army. He wants the one quiet room where 2 people made a promise, and he wants to be there when it breaks. The fourth throne should not even fit in the chair. Envy. Leviathan. Leviathan is older than almost everything else in this room. He is the sea monster from the book of Job, and God spends an entire chapter describing him just to prove that no man could ever tame him. Scales locked together like shields, breath that lights coals, a wake of silver churning behind him in water no one can see the bottom of. He began as pure chaos, the ocean itself, given a body. And then the men who mapped out hell did something almost cruel to him. They took the thing that could swallow ships whole and they chained it to the smallest, quietest sin there is: envy. That little green turn in the back of your chest when your neighbor does well. Picture a monster that size, given a feeling that petty. That, right there, is what envy actually is. Something enormous, gnawing on something you would never say out loud. The fifth throne smells of rot and sounds of wings. Gluttony. Beelzebub. No prince in this court fell further than this one, because this one started as a god, a real god, worshipped in a Philistine city called Ekron. Beelzebub. Powerful enough that a wounded king once sent messengers across a kingdom just to ask him whether he would live. But he belonged to the wrong people, and when their conquerors wrote the history, they twisted his name into a joke. Lord of the Flies. That is the whole arc of him, in 3 words. From a god men cross deserts to consult, to a swarm circling a corpse. By the time the Gospels name him, he is a prince of demons. By the time hell is fully drawn, he sits bloated over a feast that never ends, the air thick with flies. A god eaten alive by the religion that beat him. The 6th throne belongs to the name you already think you know: Wrath, Satan. But the name hides something. In the oldest Hebrew, Satan is not a name. It is a job. Ha! Satan, the accuser, the adversary. In the book of Job, he is a member of the heavenly court, and his role is to test you, to prosecute you, to walk the earth and come back with the case against you. He is heaven's prosecuting attorney. It was only later, as the centuries hardened, that the title fused into a single being, and the being into the Lord of Wrath. All that cold legal precision turned white-hot and aimed back at the world he was once asked to judge. The accuser became the accused, and he has never once stopped building the case against you. And the 7th throne is the easiest to miss, which is exactly the point. Sloth. Belphegor. Belphegor. Belphegor comes down from another fallen god, Baal Peor, named in the Book of Numbers, tied to a place where a whole people were led quietly into ruin. But the legend that grew up around him is the one that should make you sit up straight, because it sounds less like an old story and more like a warning shot. Belphegor does not tempt you with pleasure. He tempts you with invention, with a clever device that promises to do the work for you, to make it all easier, to let you rest. And then the rest becomes your whole life, and the easing becomes the end of you. Out of 7 ancient horrors, he is the one who sounds the most like right now. He is the prince who offers you the shortcut. And then he waits. So there they are. 7 thrones, 7 crowns. A Babylonian king's pride, a word for money, a killer of grooms, a drowned monster, a god turned to flies, a prosecutor turned to fire, and a whispered shortcut. The entire government of hell, and not one of them was born to the crown. Now, the pattern I asked you to watch for, here it is. The people who drew up this hierarchy could not actually agree on it. One list, written in England around the year 49, seats different demons over different sins than the famous version you have probably seen. Almost 200 years later, a man redrew the whole court and the crowns moved. Gluttony changed hands. Sloth changed hands. The sea monster got dragged in to take envy. The neat little chart everyone quotes was argued over, edited and rewritten by human hands. And that tells you what this list always really was. It was never a map of hell. It was a mirror. Every age looked into the dark, saw the sins it was most afraid of, and rearranged the thrones to match. Which means the court is still being redrawn, right now, by us. The 7 princes never had to climb up out of the old books to find you because we assembled them out of our own fear in the first place, and fear has not run out. Pride still sits at the top. Greed still teaches you to look down. And somewhere near the back, on the quietest throne of all, the Lord of the Shortcut is still smiling, still patient, still certain you will reach for him on your own. This is Pantheon X, where we tell the oldest stories the world ever dared to tell, and we tell them from the source. The first wife written out of Eden is waiting. The angels the Bible actually describes, the ones that look nothing like the ones on your wall, are waiting too. Subscribe and stay close to the fire.